Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
Okay, we just got the thumbs up. That means we got to start. This is episode 55.
Yeah, 55. That's a lot of episodes.
I can count all of them.
Do you remember all of them? I bet
No.
you can't even count them in order.
I definitely.
I bet you'll forget some of the guests even if you try.
I could, yes.
Yeah, so you don't remember all of them.
No. I mean, I can count to 55 is what I was trying to say.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm pretty proud of myself on that one.
I could do like a for loop and make it print out.
A for loop?
It's programming humor. It's funny. To
Okay.
the people
I'll
who
take
get
your word for that one.
Okay. It's not funny.
It's really not funny.
Anyway, One Game at a Time by Matt Hern.
Yeah, we had him on today to talk about his new book out on AK Press.
Yeah.
I was really kind of like, it was one of those books. This is one of the reasons I love being a friend of AK Press. They don't pay us for this shit, just to let you know, but check them out. Since being a friend of AK Press, you just get every book that they publish in their publishing house, right? And they just show up. And so I go to the mail and I get this book. I'm like, the fuck is this sports book? You know, like it was just one of those ones you weren't expecting, but an awesome surprise. Like it really made me rethink my personal outlook on that culture. So
Yeah, I think he also contributed to the Radical Youth book that you got.
yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember right.
Yeah.
Which is another interesting one that came out.
Yeah.
It's a good one to have to let someone flip through and use as a reference. Events.
I'm not sure if there's any events. There's going to be a mass consumption of slaughtered turkeys this Thursday.
Yeah. Please don't do that.
I don't know what else.
There's always Fur Free Friday.
Ooh, yeah, for Free Friday.
So check out your local animal rights organization to participate in the Fur Free Friday interview.
Without a doubt.
Please do send us any pictures. Love to see them. Love to post them out and send them out.
Buy Nothing Day.
A little side note: Fur Free Friday is always a weird day for me because it was the day that I was arrested by the FBI one time.
That makes it weird.
It does make it weird.
It only makes it weird if you make it weird.
It always, well, my family always makes it weird. They always bring up. My mom's always like,
Yeah.
You know, the FBI shoved me down the stairs today. Like, yes, Mom, I understand that happened.
Your mom would do that. She's
But
funny.
anyways,
Yeah. Besides for Free Friday, the same day, Buy Nothing Day, if you contribute to that, or I say Buy Local Day. Fuck Saturday Local Day.
you know, I don't like the buy local day. It's fucking done by
Yeah.
American Express. Fuck American
No,
Express.
I say, but that's local Saturday. You should buy
Yeah.
local every day.
Well,
Fuck.
buy local whenever you can. Help
Yeah.
support your communities.
Yeah.
And your local entrepreneurs. Especially if they are vegan and treat their workers with respect.
Collectively owned.
The owned
Anarchists.
is best.
Yep.
Do
Right.
that shit. Enjoy.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side? Which side are you on? 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 Which side are you on?
Hey there, how you doing?
Doing good.
This is Matt Hern calling.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Matt, I'm Jeremy.
Hey, man, you all expecting me now?
Yeah.
What do you know? Good luck. Now, hang on a second. I just got some kind of fucking single and Christian dating for God's thing. Is this you? Oh, it's an ad. Never mind. I got some ad that popped up in Skype for single Christian daters.
Well, if you're single and Christian, that's a good thing, right?
I
No.
guess so, man, but I was just momentarily worried about what I'd gotten myself into this afternoon.
Well, I'm not single or Christian, but I'm always looking.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that openness. Are you on? Have you got video going?
No, we usually don't do the video just to help save the bandwidth.
So
'Cause
Okay, cool.
Skype fucks up a lot on us sometimes.
I appreciate it. Here, let me turn my video off. I'm staring at myself.
yeah, that's fine.
Here we go.
Cool.
Very cool. Great. So you guys are in Salt Lake? Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
You know. And tell me what's what? What's the deal with this show?
Go for it, Jordan.
I was gonna say go for it, Jeremy. Because, basically, we just like to get people on and talk about things.
We're just a couple anarchists that like to fuck around, and yeah,
About it.
Right on. Sounds right up my alley. Nice.
yeah.
So what are y'all doing in Salt Lake City?
Currently,
Just trying to live.
yeah.
Is that where you're all from, or how come you're living there?
Yeah, my family's from here. I've moved around a couple places, but my wife loves it here, so we've kind of just settled down.
Yeah.
Right.
Likewise, I just grew up here. It's what I know.
Right.
Yeah. But
What was that?
his wife was like, I don't like it here.
yeah.
What? I was reading the other day about this restaurant called One World Everybody Eats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to live in the same building.
Is it cool?
It's okay. I really want to say it's
That's a tepid fucking endorsement. What's the matter with it?
The concept is amazing.
Yeah.
The food's just okay.
All right.
The food's pretty bland, I'll be honest, but I mean, at least everyone can eat. That's
Is
true.
it true? It's like you can go eat for pay what you can, the whole thing and all that.
Yeah, totally.
And if you can't afford it, then they just like ask you to help out, like clean dishes and
like
stuff
bus
like that.
tables or things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Wait, and it works.
So
I think
far,
it's still around, right?
Yeah.
I think they were having some trouble, but I think they're back
They've
on their
done
feet.
some funding, like fundraising for it to make sure it can stay going. But so far, it seems pretty good. Talking to them, they say most people end up paying more than they should.
Yeah.
So it's that liberal guilt, I guess.
Boys, you're cutting in and out on me.
That's not good.
Now you're cutting right out on me. I can't hear y'all.
You can't hear us?
Well, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm going to close up so I can hear nothing out of you all.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
Right back. Hold on. Oh, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, totally.
Sorry about that. We
No.
just restarted our router, and hopefully that fixed it.
Hey, no worries. Do you want me to give you my phone number just in case it goes south again?
Well, our bad thing is we don't have a landline.
So it's going to cost you $1 million to call me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so fuck that. Let's just hope this works.
Sweet.
But yeah, you were talking about One World. It's not bad, especially if you like hippie food. But I love the concept. I think the concept is great.
Yeah. Is it popular?
I wouldn't say extremely popular. I guess it used to be. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of fell out of fashion, like fell out of vogue a little bit.
I hear you. But does like the anarchist or the activist or the leftist community, does it support it? Like kind of as a matter of habit or?
You think
Not
they
really.
would, but sadly, no.
Yeah, I would say sadly, unfortunately, not as much as they probably should.
Huh. What's that about?
I don't know. Now you're making me internalize. Like, why the fuck don't I support
What's
them?
wrong with y'all? God damn. All right, okay, I'll let that go. How about the Utah Jazz? Any basketball fans there?
You know, it's funny you bring that up because I am not a sports guy at all. And I felt really bad when my daughter had a jazz player come to her school and she thought he was playing baseball and didn't know like any of the terminology. So I took her to a jazz game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And she loved it, but she kept asking me questions that I have no answer to.
There you go. How's your kid?
She's 7.
Well, your team sucks this year, I'm afraid.
Yeah, they lost really badly. It was the pregame against the Clippers.
Yes. Well, this for a non-basketball fan, this is of very little interest. But the next year's draft, which is when pro teams get to draft college players, incredibly strong. It's fantastically strong. And one of the best 2 or possibly 3 players in the draft who plays at Duke right now is this amazing kid who's got like this fantastic game, seems to be a wonderful dude, and just happens to be a Mormon. He's a black guy from Michigan, but he's an unbelievable dude. And so Utah is tanking, is trying to put forth a terrible team this year just so that they can get a shot at drafting this guy because the worst teams draft highest, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So this guy called Jabari Parker. So Utah is making a blatant ploy, fielding a shit team this year in the hope that they can draft this guy next year.
I wonder what the people on the team feel like the players. They're like, yeah, we're just a shit team.
Yeah, well, they're all young. There's actually some good players on that team, but they're young and they're going to get their ass beat all year. Yeah. So in the hope that in like 2 years they're going to be good.
Isn't like a brand new coach also?
He's sort of new, but he's a bit over his head, I'm afraid. There's a guy there who was forever, a guy called Jerry Sloan, and he left. He didn't call me to talk about basketball, probably. I mean, I'm happy to, but obviously.
I'm happy to talk about anything.
I'll talk about basketball for the full fucking hour, so look out.
What's really funny, to give you like how bad I am with sports, last year during the Super Bowl, we were at the grocery store shopping, and my daughter asked me why there was UFO balloons everywhere. Like, she had no idea what a fucking football was.
Awesome. I got nothing to say except for congratulations. That's great, man. coming from one of the bigger sports fans you're ever going to meet or talk to. But I got respect for that.
Well, and it's funny because, like, I'm not, like, anti-sport, you know. I played Little League football until I had an asshole for a coach, and then I said, fuck that. But yeah,
hey, it's all good, man. Your daughter will find sports if she wants to. They're not that hard to find.
Well, I played sports all growing up, and I mainly played baseball though. But I accidentally hit the coach's son in the mouth with a baseball bat, knocked out all of his teeth, and kind of stopped playing.
Kind of went self there.
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose.
Tell me something else about Salt Lake City. Then I won't ask you about the Jazz. What else you guys say about Salt Lake City?
I hear we have a good soccer team.
Yeah, Real's supposed to be like one of the best in the United States.
Yeah, nice, good. What else? What's the activist life like there?
It depends, like, what kind of activist you're talking about. As far as like the anarchist scene here, it's kind of split. As multiple ways with internal politics, like fucked up places everywhere else.
That doesn't sound like anarchist to me.
Yeah, no, exactly. I personally feel the peace movement here is way too strong. That's a personal assessment.
I think a lot of the anarchists lately,
like anti-Iraq, like sort of like opposition to the Iraq War kind of scene. You mean
like
that kind?
Yeah, but to the complete pacifism, you know.
Got it.
And like, yeah, just
right.
I think a lot of times you'll find like anarchists rallying around the same issues, and that just causes some internal conflict between them as well. Like trying to get into Occupy and everything else like that, which was pretty much, anarchist run, and then it started to be taken over by the small D Democrats or whatever you want to call them.
You know, but I was really excited about this last year on May Day. There was about 200 people that actually showed up for the May Day festivities this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like probably the biggest Salt Lake has ever seen.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice. What else happens there?
Snow.
Snow?
Lots of snow.
What else? Can you stay with me? I can't. What's that lake north of town called? That big lake?
The Great Salt Lake. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
I camped in the middle of that thing. What's that island called? Elk Island or
Antelope Island?
Antelope Island.
Antelope Island. That's what it's called. There's more mosquitoes on that island than I've ever been acquainted with.
Really?
Unbelievable. I camped there with 25 teenagers. We were all in like 15 tents trying to stay out. We're trying to cook inside our tents because there's so many fucking mosquitoes out there.
What were you guys doing out in Antelope Island?
Oh, for a long time, I used to take teenagers camping. Me and my partner would take teenagers camping for a month. And we would just load 3 vans up, me and my partner and my buddy, and then just fill them with teenagers and then take them away for 30 days at a time. And twice we went down to Utah. So we went down straight down to Canyonlands and then to what was the other one called? Arches, and then to what's the next one over called?
Like Zions?
Nope, Grand something.
Grand Rapids, Grand Junction,
the Grand Canyon.
No, some other big one of those parks down there. I can't remember. There's 3. There's Bryce, Zion in the west, and then there's Canyonlands and Arches in the east, and there's one in the middle.
I'm thinking
there's Bryan Head in the middle, and then there's Goblin Valley in the middle.
one other. I can't remember. Oh,
middle to the side, you got Grand Junction, but that's not really.
Yeah, no, it's Canyonlands is the place I really like being best.
Yeah,
the Canyonlands is a beautiful area.
Yeah, well, because we live up in the rainforest up here, right? So any kind of dry, dusty, kind of Moab-y kind of style landscape is just fantastic for us.
So how many buffalo did you guys run into on Antelope Island?
Just one. After that, we there was a whole bunch. In fact, well, that's a long story, but that's a beautiful island, and there are tons of buffalo out there. There's tons. They're drifting around all over the place, and snakes too. Some big ass snakes out there.
I've never witnessed the snakes, but definitely seen the buffalo.
Yeah, I've never seen the snakes out there, but yeah, there's a ton of buffalo.
I didn't camp out there either.
Wow, nice though. I like it.
Yeah, it's weird living here because we have so much so close that most locals just don't take advantage of any of it.
Yeah, we take it all for granted. For sure.
Uh-oh. Cut out.
I don't know if I can hear him. I can't hear you.
God damn it. I just answer it.
You there?
The boys back?
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about your podcast then. Tell me what you've been doing it for. So I'm just generally calling up people and causing trouble.
Just listening to like a whole bunch of podcasts out there, we didn't feel like there was anything that really touched to our generation or our perspective. We're both vegan anarchists that have been animal rights activists and political activists for, better part of 10 years. And we just didn't think there was much out there where it was a little less serious, more of just what, hanging out is like. So since we didn't really see that and everything was always so serious, we're like, well, let's do something that's not so serious but can touch on serious issues sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how have you organized it? You just call up people you're interested in, or how's it organized?
Yeah, pretty much. For the most part, we usually try to get people that we feel would be interesting to talk to.
Yeah, just people that we would like to. So like with you, I'm an AK, Friends of AK Press. I got your book in the mail and I'm like, what the fuck is this about sports?
Yep. I suspect there's a few other people who said that too.
So I'm like, hey, I want to talk to this guy and see what the fuck's up.
Nice. Done. Fantastic. And so do you follow any general kind of thematic trends or do you try to, how's it worked with other people? Which have you had previous conversations which are good?
Usually, yeah. It's usually just hanging out, just like this. We just shoot the shit and let the conversation flow, and usually we get pretty good things coming out of it.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Great. And it sounds like at least one of you have kids. Both of you?
Nope, just the one. Just
nice. So you want to call and talk about kids? You want to talk about city planning, or you want to talk about sports? What do you want to talk about?
I'm open to everything, but I looked
at my book. I couldn't tell what the hell you're calling me for. I usually try to make a note of what my interviews are for, but I didn't make any note on this, so I was like, all right.
Yeah, there's no real thing.
I'm happy to meet you. Whatever.
But with your book, it really kind of took me aback a little bit because I'm not anti-sport, but I know a lot of people who are, especially coming from the activist side of things, and the people who aren't, who are into it, kind of like are almost into hiding and keep it kind of like hidden,
Oh.
And I kind of fell out of sports just because I had an asshole coach that kind of made me fucking hate it. But that was a personal thing. It had nothing to do with sports in general. And so I really was excited to read your book and find out, am I missing something? Am I taking something away from my daughter? Am I, not exposing her to something I should be? It raised a whole bunch of questions that I'd never thought about my parenting style.
Yeah, right. And how'd it work for you?
I still have a lot of questions.
You don't got to worry about hurting my feelings, by the way.
No, I don't worry about that. So it's just my big questions is, being a parent, the biggest concern for me is making sure I'm raising, a kid who is strong and confident and, willing to express themselves, and have like the positive role models. But her being a girl, I always worry whether or not she has those positive role models, especially in the sports arena.
Yep. Well, I mean, firstly, I think my first comment on that about talking about sports is that you can't ask anybody to like sports, right? Like, that's an aesthetic choice in lots of ways, right? You can't ask someone to like it. It's like saying, well, I want you to like opera or something, right? Or I want you to like, sculpture, Well, that's not what I'm after. What I'm after is to ask people to respect them and to think that the sporting world is worthy of our attention, our care, and to view it as a site of legitimate struggle. I think typically so many let's just loosely call them leftists, progressives, and we could even expand it further to kind of thinking folks, whatever that might possibly mean, tend to deride sports and to consider it beneath them. And certainly the anarchist kind of world tends to think about sports as beneath their serious attention. And I think that speaks to an endemic failure of the left to connect with everyday struggle, everyday politics, everyday culture. And that I think I wouldn't ever ask, you as a parent or something like saying, oh, you should be exposing your kids to sports, because that's foolish, right? That's a strangely disciplinary way to think about child rearing. but just to think of sports as a legitimate site. And if your kids are interested or your people or friends are interested, not to deride it, not to condescend it, not to paternalize to it, but consider it worthy of your time and attention and care. In the same way that you think, I suspect that you think of, I don't know, of certain strains of music that you don't like, but you respect it as legitimate.
You very early on in your book, you wrote that quote by Noam Chomsky about, I think it was something along the lines, if people cared as much about politics as they do about sports, we'd live in a better place. And yep. And your comment based on that is like, we would never say this about any other like actual art form. Like when I read that, I actually had to stop and I made my wife read it because, I wanted to make sure that we weren't doing that same thing. Like, do we delegitimize it? Just like you're saying. And I would hope that I don't, but I think in some ways I do. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, because then that's what people have, people who like books or whatever all taught to think, right? But those guys are a bunch of fucking lugheads. They're probably just rife with, homophobic and racist fucking ignorant fools who, it's beneath us. And in a lot of ways, it reflects a heritage that we have. It's a civilized heritage whereby we're taught to elevate the mind over body and soul over mind. Even the idea of good art being able to elevate us sort of implies a derogation of the body, right? A derogation of materiality. And that's sort of endemic, throughout so much of our political analysis, too, right? Is that people are constantly talking about trying to move themselves out of kind of jobs that require physical activity, of materiality, of actually touching things. And jobs which are, considered respected are often those which involve touching nothing. And that, you've made it in this world if you don't have to cook for yourself, if you don't have to clean for yourself, if you don't have to take care of your own garden, if you don't have to take care of your own kids, and nothing that involves nothing bodily ever enters into your daily activity. And I think the large part of that speaks to the habitual condescension to sports is a sort of a fearfulness and a loathing of the body in certain kinds of ways. And so I think it's important to try to think about when I talk about sports as a creative pursuit. I think it's worthy to think about it. You start thinking about where's the line, for example, between, say, rhythmic gymnastics, which is considered a sport, and modern dance, which is considered an art. Incredibly fine distinctions, which are really hard to find, even to note what are the actual differences. I think then is to be able to throw in a kind of a wider and a more historicized conversation about what constitutes sports. Yeah, like what even are sports? Why are some things named as sports and why not others? And there's a certain masculinist and a kind of misogynist history there whereby so many of our sports, when we say, should men and women compete? Oh, women could never compete against men in sports. You say, well, why are so many of our sports involving and reifying and magnifying certain kind of masculinist kind of body type? Why are rhythm and grace and balance not considered just as important as speed and strength and power? And I think all of that is worth throwing into question. Shoot, I lost you somewhere in there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries, boys. I don't know where I was, but Terry, let me just stop there, and you guys can pick up your question.
Well, you were talking about like what defines like the masculinity and everything, and like my biggest worry is, from mostly of the female aspect. It seems like in a lot of the major sports, the females are always pushed to be like the cheerleaders, and that's what I really want to let my daughter know, that like if this is the world she wants to be in, she doesn't have to fit into these one specific roles.
Totally, and my argument is I'm not arguing for the sporting world as it is. The sporting world as it is fucked. It is rife with homophobia. It is rife with all kinds of like horrific racist and sexist tendencies. It's rife with your asshole coaches, etc. But part of my argument is not to celebrate. It's partially to celebrate the good in sports where it is, but to argue that leftists and progressive of all stripes have habitually abandoned the sporting world as beneath us, and thus left the worst of our cultural values to rush in. I think to somehow to look at the sporting world and to say, well, it's been, it's full of all this bullshit. Okay, but what isn't? To say that, the sporting world is maimed by capitalism. Well, sure, but what hasn't been? To blame sports for that is to chase the wrong squirrel up the wrong tree, in my opinion.
So
capitalism maims everything that it touches.
Yeah, I think we would all agree with that. So what's your distinction between like professional sports and like just kids playing on the corner, and the difference in society that creates?
I think it's really, really important, and this is really classic, right? Which is that a lot of kind of like lefty types or whatever will say, well, okay, it's okay to play sports, but watching it is passive and consumptive. And again, I say, who would say that about, say, drama? Oh, it's okay to be an actor, but going to a play is passive and consumptive. And I say horseshit to that. I say that, both there's a performative spectrum between spectating, watching, fanning, playing, taking your kids to play. All of it is a package of engagement with the sporting world, and all of it is valid. I say all of it is equally valid. Just as the fact that I'm a fan of a big music fan, but I've never played a musical instrument in my life. But sitting there in my kitchen listening to all kinds of music does not make me passive and consumptive. In the same way as that me sitting listening to the radio and listening to the hockey game does not make me a passive capitalist consumer. I'm just as energized and ennobled by beautiful and incredibly capable bodies in action as I am by incredibly beautiful musical capacity.
So like as activists, how can we be a part of the sporting world and still combat all the stuff that we find disdaining, the homophobia, right, the patriarchy?
Yeah, and I would say a couple things. The first thing is by respect. It's considering it a legitimate place of struggle. The second thing I would say is when you start thinking about positive role models, for example, your daughters,
mm-hmm.
and someone has a bunch of daughters myself, you think about it all the time. And you start thinking about strong, powerful, independent, opinionated women, I mean, what do people start thinking about? They start thinking about Brittany Griner. They start thinking about the Williams sisters. You think about, prominent queer women in our world. Like a huge number of them are in the sporting arena. Tons of female basketball players, female tennis players, female golfers, female hockey players who are open and proudly queer. When you think about a place for queer women to, be accepted and express themselves in a variety of ways, the sporting world is primary among that. You think about your neighborhood. You think about all the queer softball teams that are out there. Think about all the, at least in my world, anyway. So I think it's important to both be willing to combat all the bullshit we see in the sporting world, but also to celebrate that which is incredibly vibrant. So, to my mind, the Washington Redskins fucking jersey and logo and helmet really matter. And part of the reason that it has been allowed to exist so long is people don't perceive that sports care. That sports matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you see that. You see how vibrant that is. I don't know if you've been following the Richie Incognito, Jonathan Martin kind of arguments around bullying in sports. It's a way for which people can encounter difference and encounter actual encounters with materiality and collisions with actual difference. You ask most people, where do they actually spend time with people who are not like them, like fundamentally different than them? And they say, oh, you start thinking about it. And you're like, well, the best place I know to hang out with people that I don't normally hang out with is like on my hockey team. That's where people.
I was just gonna say. So, you said you're a parent with some daughters, right?
Yep.
So how do you handle like the other crazy fucking sports parents, or are you one of those crazy sports parents where?
Yeah. It's. I just think it's like all parts of the world, right? There's parts like one of the places that I've seen the most competitive, the most insane parenting, the most fucking like just reprehensible activity across the board is in the like ballet dance world.
It's really funny you say that, because my wife is a modern dance teacher, and my daughter has been in competitive dance since she was 1.
Yeah, and I just see I had one of my girlfriends and her sister both literally like were driven to the brink of insanity when I was in high school, and both had to be institutionalized because they were ballerinas, and it's just so fucking nuts and competitive.
It is fucking insane. Like, I've witnessed unbelievable things.
Totally, and that is worth like critiquing from beginning to end in every single way. But that doesn't mean that we chuck dance out as an illegitimate art form.
That's interesting. I never really like connected dance as like a sport, but it is definitely like that competitive nature to it.
Yeah, like I never really thought about sport as a creative expression, or a release, and until reading your book, and it really makes me look at it a different way and make me not want to fear like my maybe wanting to be a part of that world, and the repercussions that comes from some of the society.
I just know that, like, for myself, like, the time I feel the most kind of uninhibited creative joy is with a basketball in my hand.
That's awesome.
And I know that, and it's just, there's no other way to describe it. It's just straight creativity, and particular kind of creativity with, and at one time I fancied myself as a fairly good basketball player, but I'm an old man now. I'm 45, right? I can't do 9/10 of the shit I think I want to be able to do. That's just the way it goes. But I feel wonderful, right? And I feel like that certain kind of freedom that I'm presuming your wife feels, or something like that, dancing, and that anybody does when they feel like they're kind of in their creative kind of, happy zone or whatever.
So you seem like a pretty well-spoken, outspoken individual. So like, when does that cause problems, like in, with other fans or anything? Like, have you ever had those confrontations at a sporting arena?
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. People tend to think of them as like, sporting the world is just full of fucking thugs. And there's some of that shit for sure, right? But surprising, I don't know if you got to the part where Christina Carl, the transgendered sports writer from Chicago.
Yeah.
Did you get to that part of the book?
I did,
and you're like, exactly, that's my experience. Is that you'd be surprised. And part of that is because sports involve an intense preoccupation with bodies. Mm-hmm. And that you're thinking about your own body, and you're thinking about other people's bodies in a much more intimate way than I ever do in my everyday other kinds of lives, right? Like I describe a lot, like in that first chapter, like, learning jiu-jitsu, right? Mm-hmm. Essentially, you're in a room with 15 other people, probably, 2/3 guys. And the first thing you do when you learn jiu-jitsu is you lie on your back, spread your legs, and some random guy leans between you and essentially humps you. Yeah. And you're like, that's what jiu-jitsu is. It's submission. You're just rolling around with this guy. Like, it's like, and I often tell the story, like, there's this guy that I was, training with the other day, and it's like, he's like way bigger than me. Like, I'm not a big dude. He's like probably 250, 260. And I don't know what his racialized origin is, like maybe Filipino or something, or I don't know what he is. Big, kind of like probably, 20 years younger than me. Kind of thuggy looking, neck tattoos and that kind of shit, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're rolling around trying to submit each other. And he's a lot bigger than me, and he's like just a lot heavier, and a lot of it involves like pretty heavy duty, physical contact. And we stop, and he sits there and like really tenderly and sweetly rubs my back and asks him if I'm okay, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, where does that shit happen in my life? Like, where do I, like, I don't, you know, like, yeah, I hang out with a lot of young folks, and where would I know this guy? And where would he, like, we share something so sweet, right? And like, and really genuine caring. And one of the things about, for example, doing jiu-jitsu or almost any sport is there's a certain amount of trust that inheres in it. You have to believe that this guy isn't going to hurt you. Like, you know, we're trying to wrestle each other, but he's not trying to hurt me. And to put myself in his hands, I have to trust him so intimately that he's not going to break my neck. Because he could. And it's the same as playing any sport. You have to trust the other person to a certain regard that they're not going to hurt you. Even boxing, which I used to, you know, I boxed a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people are always so surprised if you watch boxing, the final bell rings, and inevitably, over and over and over, the first thing the guys do, or women do for that matter, is they go and hug each other and ask if the other guy's okay. You're like, how the fuck is that? They've been trying to, you know, we've been trying to punch each other in the head for the last 10 rounds.
It's funny that you bring up boxing because, like, I've only seen a little bit of MMA, and I seem like almost primally like drawn towards it, and I've always fought that urge. It just seems like these two individuals just fucking going at it hardcore, and it's intriguing and it draws me in at the same time. I'm kind of like, I shouldn't be watching this. I don't know if that makes sense.
Totally. And there's lots of weirdness in there for sure that's worth talking about, which is that, you know, for as long as human history has been around, people have been willing to hurt each other for other people's performative pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awkward. And the more we know about concussions and the more I know about my own brain, like it's a problematic exercise. There's no question about it. And there's like all kinds of problems with, like, let's say skateboarding or let's say mountain climbing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like pretty much anybody that seriously mountaineers or mountain climbs, you know, dies somewhere down the road, or at least gets really badly hurt. And there's inherent risks in all kinds of activity. You know, backcountry skiing, for example. Mm-hmm. And boxing is undeniably so. There is an element of an intent of damage, and it's scary, and it's frightening, and it's intimidating, and it's probably not on balance the best thing to do for very long because you're going to fuck your head up. On the other hand, it's, you know, it's an activity that people have, you know, done for generations of all kinds of fighting, and that I think it's worth considering seriously because there's a certain element of care and trust and solidarity and mutual aid that is really hard to find in other parts of the world, in every part of other parts of our everyday life. And you think about core anarchist values, you know, values around generosity, values around mutual aid, about cooperation, about solidarity, and I find those in evidence in the sporting world almost more than anywhere else I see. And I see all kinds of anarchist activists talking all kinds of shit about each other, engaging in all kinds of bitter gossip and petty kinds of politics, and then talking out of one side of their mouth about solidarity and, you know, and about generosity, and then at the same time deriding each other's efforts in the most kind of like condescending way.
Yeah,
and I see athletes who profess to know explicit politics taking care of each other, expressing solidarity and community in ways that are like spectacular and really moving.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm like, okay, so what does that mean there? What's going on there? And I'm not asking anybody to like sports. That's, if you're not attracted to it, if you don't like it, if you think it's dumb, great. But I think that the kind of like the control of the sporting world by many of the worst aspects, this crazy militarism, this nationalism, this endemic homophobia and sexism, is not inherent to sport, is inherent to our condescension to that kind of bodily activity that is, you know, in many ways, an essential part of everyday and particularly working class culture the world over.
I found it very interesting. Like you were saying that just that contact that between people who don't even know each other, like in jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. Myself being a martial artist, when I was a kid, I experienced, like, I just remember this one time when I accidentally hurt the person I was sparring with, and I felt this, I didn't know the other person, but I felt this immense guilt, which ultimately made me end up losing the fight, I think. But I can't like remember experiencing that anywhere else outside of that, like this ultimate like real sense of care for the other person who I was doing this with. It was weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. And you see that so often sparring, right? You're doing shit, and all of a sudden you whack them, and you're like, or they whack you, and they stop. You okay, man?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you sure? And I get that it's a weird activity.
Mhm.
You think about, I don't know if any of you guys are into punk rock, but you kind of feel that in a pit, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Like you feel that in a mosh pit, and you're like, oh, like you're fucking hammering into each other, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I'm sorry, did I get you with my elbow? You okay?
Yeah, exactly.
What, and you're like, what is that? And what is that feeling, that total fucking high you have when you leave the pit? You know?
Yeah, I've never correlated the two things together, but it's totally true. Like a lot of people will look at like the pit and think it's just this mass violence, and anyone who's ever really experienced it in a true way realize it's not at all.
No.
Like, I mean, yeah, every once in a while you'll get an asshole in there, but that's far the exception, you know.
And it's
totally, and it looks exactly from the outside like a whatever. You don't even have to go to like a punk rock show. You can go to like a fucking go-go bordello show or whatever, right? You just see people wanting to run into each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels good.
It does feel good, yeah. It's a hard feeling to describe. It just feels good to be pushed and to push back.
But you do it in the context, you know that they care about you, right?
Yeah.
You know that nobody there is trying to hurt you. Everybody just wants to run into each other about as hard as you can without hurting each other.
Exactly.
So, like, how does that go into like the whole context, like you were talking about, like the concussions? Like, how does that go into like the professional sports arena, like with the NFL, and then how people push youth to, push their bodies to that level where they are, getting those extra concussions because they want to hit that professional level, even though logistically it's never going to fucking happen for most of them.
Yeah, but I'd say a couple things. One is like, I think I got cut out when I was saying this before, is that like, we would never deride people, to say, well, it's okay to like, play guitar in your basement, but if you get a recording contract, you're illegitimate somehow. I say horse shit to that too, right? Like people, like the economics of the sporting world is as insane as any other, piece of capitalist economics.
Yeah, but what about not the economics, but just the pure danger of like concussions?
Totally, and I just think it's that discussion is incredibly vibrant in the sporting world in all kinds of ways, and it's just really problematic. And there's all kinds of ways to talk about it, but I think my answer to your question is yes, we have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think your answer is to like that? Like I heard one person say, if you want to stop concussions in football, take away the helmets.
Yeah, that's not really true. It's not true. You look at rugby, people use rugby as an example all the time. Say, well, and it's not true. There's fucking hordes of concussions in rugby.
Okay.
I don't know. I would not be surprised if in 20 years we're having this conversation. Football is like an underground sport or something. It's hard to imagine, but I don't know how you can play football and not end up with long-term damage. It's just so horrible. These guys, like the Junior Seaus and the Andre Waters of the world, who are shooting themselves, like because they're sitting in dark rooms after this fucking horrible NFL experience, like it's just deep, deep depression. Mm-hmm. If I don't think I'd let my son play football. It's just, I love football. I love watching football. I love the NFL. I love fucking like everything about it. I fucking well, not everything. But I love sitting with my friends and sitting around watching football. Like it's one of my great joys in life.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty troubled by it.
So, like, what other sports would you not, let your kids, participate in, and what would you, push them to participate in to help, partake of that world?
Yeah, I would never push them anywhere. For one, so, and it's complicated. That's a complicated question. So would I let my kids skateboard, for example? Of course. Do I let my kids ride their bike on the street, right? There's fucking these, and Vancouver's pretty chill city to bike ride in, but it's like, I just wonder about it, right? Like, why am I letting my kids ride bikes on city streets? It's fucking like, they're very possibly going to get killed. Why do I let myself, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah. Like, there's danger inherent everywhere, right? And we have to have a confrontation with it. You can't laminate the world. And people's passions and people's, attraction to risk is really real. And if we try to, create a hermetically sealed, constantly sanitized world for our children, they're going to constantly push those boundaries and probably in like more dangerous ways.
So how have you found that balance?
I haven't. I've
Okay.
had a lot of fucking concussions in my life, and it hurts me like terribly. I can't really play even basketball anymore.
Okay.
Because almost all the sporting, activities that I've done in my life, I lead with my face. I'm too aggressive, and I lead with my face all the time, which means that I'm probably up to somewhere between 10 and 13 concussions in my life.
Wow.
And it's not good. And my wife and I are in constant conversation about it.
Do you regret any of it?
What's that?
Do you regret any of it, or would you, take any of those choices back, or you just, fuck it, that's life?
I don't know. I knocked myself out hiking one time. I vaulted over over this tree that was falling on the path, and I vaulted over it, and the branch that I was vaulting on broke, and I just whacked my head on a fucking branch and knocked myself cold. There's something about me, and I don't mean to be all fucking pop psychological, that I just lead with my face all the time. Today, I just whacked my head so hard cleaning out my chicken coop today. And I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me, right? I mean, I'm definitely kind of wired, and like if there's something scares me, like if there's a big bang beside me, the first inherent thing I do is I turn and I run to it, like blindly. Like I don't even know what I'm doing. Like as opposed to like jump and try to get away from it, I just turn and run at it. I'm like, or like my body, you know what I mean? I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. So
it's just hardwired.
My basic sporting activities are like I play ping pong, I play tennis, I lift a lot of weight. I do jujitsu because the likelihood is you're gonna bang your head to submission that's tight.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm scared even to play basketball sometimes. I play basketball with players who really know how to play. I don't like playing with people who aren't very good at basketball because they tend to flail their elbows and knees around.
Well, I'll play table tennis with you anytime.
Will you? I fucking dominate that shit. So look out.
I not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty fucking good.
All right, man, I'm on. I'm coming down to Salt Lake City sometime looking for you.
I do have my own server, and I practice quite frequently.
You have your own what?
Server, so I can practice.
What's the server?
You serve the balls to me.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You have a robot.
Do you have your own rackets?
Fuck yeah.
Like, you carry them around in a little racket bag?
Of course, and I have my rubber rejuvenator also.
You do not.
Of course.
A rubber rejuvenator?
Uh-huh.
Good Lord. All right, you probably are good then. All right.
So, just to give you a little backstory on that.
Are you going to mention your family's history?
My grandfather was on the U.S. team for table tennis, and my dad won the nationals when he was 18 in doubles and singles.
So you're deeply immersed in the sporting world.
I grew up in that world, yes. In table tennis. Most people don't consider that.
I maybe talked myself into a corner here. I can play some fucking. I played tennis at a pretty high level up until the time I was about 14. So I played ping pong like I'm playing tennis.
I just got to say I was okay at table tennis in prison.
Come on, I'm good for a challenge. Let's get it on, brother.
But if you really want a challenge, my dad still plays. I've only ever scored 2 points on him ever.
Really? I would love to play with him. That sounds fantastic. How old is he?
Almost 60.
Oh, he's probably still fucking hella good.
Yeah, he really is. It's really funny because he's a little overweight and everything, and he'll just fucking hit it, and you'll get a welt, and you're like, "What the hell?"
Fantastic.
Yeah,
love that.
Yeah,
you've only ever gotten 2 points off, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, and he never scored off his father.
Right. Look at that, man. So you're so buried in like elite sporting world, you don't even know it, man. It's unbelievable.
It's table tennis. Like, not many people like view that. Like,
what are you talking about? Why
not? I don't know. Most people make fun of me for it, but I grew up. When my dad decided to teach us how to play, he would literally just give us welts. He would hit it. He would hit us, give us a welt, and we'd be like, "What the hell, Dad?" And he's like, "Put your racket in front of the ball."
That's badass. That's fantastic.
Like that was just it. Just put your racket in front of your ball. Like
macho ping pong shit right there, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know. There's something I left off there. It's like, I just think that we need to think about the sporting world as worthy of our care. And that means, I cite a whole lot of examples, right? Like, who are the most important, out queer people right now in, kind of American consciousness? Like, who's more important to thinking about kind of queer inclusion and queer kind of acceptance than Jason Collins, for example? You know,
Yeah,
people
no,
constantly
totally.
talk about, that the breaking point in homophobia in North America is going to be the time when an currently playing star professional athlete comes out.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the breaking point. And I tend to agree.
Yeah, no, totally. I guess what's different for me is that I've always viewed the sporting world as you have your professional mainstream sports, which, you have your hockey, soccer, basketball, football, and then everything else is, I never really thought about it as part of that world. Like, it was all just like the support structure for that. So I always looked at that and like, well, I fucking hate this, so I shouldn't like this,
Right. Yeah. And I think I love professional sports for the most part. I love watching professional sports. I love talking with my buddies about it. I like reading about it. I like writing about it. But that doesn't mean I like any of the corporate fucking like unbelievable manicness, just like the maiming of the sports world. Like it's such a weird place, right?
So how do you feel about like the fantasy leagues that are coming out and the whole sub economy that's creating?
Yeah, it's weird. I've never played any kind of fantasy sport, but I'm not into gambling either. So the whole gambling kind of like universe confuses me,
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Vegas. I love being in Vegas, but I've never gambled even in Vegas. I just kind of like, why are you throwing your money away, man? Like, I don't get a buzz off of gambling. So that whole kind of fantasy world I find weird. But there's a lot of worlds I find weird that, like the whole world of like online gaming or whatever. I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but whatever, like, I don't even know what to say about it, I just have no interest and no particular attraction to whatever online role playing games or whatever, right? But whatever, other people do. People seem to care about it and kind of have, meaningful experiences there. So have at her.
I noticed that you mentioned something in your book about like pro sports stars having a hard time, like they can't really express their political views very often.
Yep.
Do you feel like fighters might be on a different level? Because there's people like Jeff Monson, who's an MMA fighter, who's also an anarchist and things like that. Do you think that they're like not held to the same level as other athletes, or do you think that?
It's an interesting question. I don't really know that answer. I never thought of that. Trying to think about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's fair enough.
I don't know. Like, I don't know that answer. I never thought about it. But I mean, we live in a quiescent time. We live in a like you look back at the era of John Carlos and Muhammad Ali and Billie Jean King, and that's a different kind of time, a different kind of vibrancy of political activity. And I think, I don't know if you got to that part, is like to ask that pro sports stars become politicized is complicated in lots of ways, and I think it's built up with a lot of kind of racialized expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And to ask that a guy like, I use Robert Griffin Jr. or Carmelo Anthony, to demand that somehow that their responsibility, I think is problematic in lots of ways. But I mean, how many music stars, how many like big time kind of musical performers are genuinely politically active, right?
Oh yeah,
not many, right? You got a few of your Tom Rellas and your Andy DeFrancos out there, but mostly we live in a quiescent time. We live in a conservative time, and a time where people, are play their things very close to the vest, right? And most of our kind of like rock star kind of like politicized heroes are people from the past.
Yeah. So speaking about like those heroes of the past, how do you feel about the upcoming Olympics in Russia and all the politics surrounding how fucked up Russia is right now?
Yeah, and again, like you see it as a flashpoint for talking about queer rights, right?
Uh-huh.
There's so much good in sports right now happening around kind of queer kind of activists. It's really, really impressive. Like from Brian Burke and You Can Play to Jason Collins to talking about the Sochi Olympics, like that is just vibrant, partly because there are just so many queer athletes, right? And I think that's got something to do with the idea that you're in a very, like, a lot of your kind of notions and your fears about bodily contact break down playing sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
You end up, like where else do you, like what other part of your life or anybody's life do you shower with a bunch of guys? It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Where else do you, rub up against sweaty men? Like, where to like, teenagers rub up against a lot of other sweaty teenagers, like all the time. And like, look at each other's bodies, think about each other's bodies, talk about each other's bodies, talk about their their own bodies. Like, I think part of that is like the fear of the fear of queerness is mitigated in lots of ways, because a lot of those kind of like thresholds have been ruptured in the sports world. And the derogation of certain kinds of people and the hatefulness towards certain kinds of people because of their bodily choice is just so fucking absurd. That I think in some ways the sports world has been such a flashpoint for those kind of politics, but also for racial politics, right? Like the conversations about what black people's capacities are in the sport, and like in football, right? Like conversations around black quarterbacking, which are pretty much now dead, but are really important, right? Those are really important, thoughtful conversations about because when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, there was the conversation alive that black people didn't have the intellectual and kind of leadership competencies to be quarterbacks, which is why Doug Williams, when he quarterbacked Washington to a title, was so important, right? And why the new breed of the new kind of wave of good young black quarterbacks in the NFL, from Robert Griffin to Colin Kaepernick to Russell Wilson to Cam Newton, are so important because they bust up those kind of stereotypes, right? And they break down our preconceptions and our racialized notions of what people are and are not capable of. And those are places where you really can have those conversations, right? Like where do you come in close contact with a lot of people from different racialized backgrounds? And typically for most people, it's like playing sports.
Yeah. So, do you feel that there should be a lot of pressure put on the athletes, like especially going into the Olympics, to express the political beliefs, or is that unfair of us to say because you're going there you have to espouse your political beliefs of why this is wrong?
I think both those things are true simultaneously. Those things are both true simultaneously, and we have to be sensitive to people's precarities. Like for most professional athletes, football players, hockey players, baseball players, like their average like careers are probably like for football players like 4 years at best. And you think they make mad money, you think those guys are making absurd money, and they are a little bit, but not so much, right? These people are people who've devoted their entire lives to this one singular pursuit of excellence. And the vast majority of them are going to end up, maybe making 4-year careers at maybe an average of like $600,000 or $700,000 a year, which sounds incredible, because you're making, but you're not going to bring home that much for one. A lot of those guys are going to end up with $1 million or less in the bank and nothing fucking left. Their body's broken, no training, no education, and no ability to get any meaningful jobs outside the sporting world. So they have to be careful. They have to be really careful.
I was reading a little while ago about the economics of baseball and how the average baseball player, like professional baseball player, if you count in all the farm leagues, is actually making only about $23,000 a year, which is below the poverty line.
Totally, and then count all the other incredible athletes who poured their heart and souls in it, who didn't even make minor league teams, right?
Yeah, it just seems crazy.
Like, even guys who are playing AA ball, like those are like guys who are superstars in your high school, like mega stars in your high school, and like great college players or whatever, right? Like I kind of follow professional tennis because my dad's a huge fan, and I played tennis at a pretty high level for a while, and like there are just guys out there, like guys who are like the best player, in your college and you're in your state, like they were number one, college player in the Western region. And then they're just out there grinding in these like tiny little quasi-professional tournaments, making just barely scraping by, Yeah. So the idea, so there's certain numbers of people, there's your Rafael Nadal or your Novak Djokovic, they're making, whatever absurd fucking money they're making. But there's just huge numbers of professional athletes who are not making very much money, like you say. And then beneath that, there's like millions of people who just didn't even make any professional money, but were great, wonderful athletes. And, when you go to the park playing tennis, you're like, holy shit, that guy's incredible.
So what's usually the people's reaction, especially activist reactions, about, you speaking about sports like this and like your new book? Like, are they like all in your face, or are they pretty understanding, or is it kind of like a mixed bag?
I've had nobody get right up in my... No, it's not true. I've had one person get up in my face. The book's really new. It just came out in October. Like, I didn't even get it till halfway through October. So it's pretty new. So I haven't had that many, but overwhelmingly positive. Super kind, super interested. A lot of people being very thankful and grateful. When I write about fucking fighting in the book, so maybe nobody wants to get up in my face just in case I'm a total psycho. Yeah, super positive, up to date. People have been like, really grateful, and really because there are so many people who love and care for sports, but feel kind of bad or like regretful or ashamed of it for certain kinds of ways. And I think it's really important to start like to confront that.
So, like, how did you come about of actually writing this book?
I just kind of wanted to write it since I was about 13 years old because I was pissed off about, my punk rock friends, thinking I was an idiot because I wanted to watch fucking hockey. I was like, this is crazy talk. Like, stop with this condescending bullshit. This is absurd. I said you've been making this argument in public for a very long time, but I just wanted to kind of do it finally, properly.
Is there really anyone else that's out there in the activist world saying, we should take sports at least a little bit seriously?
Well, Dave Zirin, he's kind of like your standard bearer leftist kind of sports writer.
Uh-huh.
I think he's kind of, I don't think he goes nearly far enough. I think he's kind of an old school JFK liberal, really, but he does really good work. And he's a good guy and he knows an incredible amount of sports. And he does a really good idea for kind of like, I think, popularizing the instrumental possibilities of sport, of arguing for the places, I think Dave Zirin's a great guy. And he and I, and I'll talk to him forever about shit. So.
One of the things that we try to do every year, we hold what we call the Which Side Rendezvous, where we just try to get a whole bunch of activists together. And one of the things we wanted to try to do this last one was we wanted to get together and actually play like games together, but it almost seemed like no one was interested. Like,
right, yeah.
How the fuck can you get like activists together and try to build those bonds and create that? Because I mean, I remember, going and playing kickball with activists, and it was like a great builder, like a community builder, a team builder, and just fucking fun.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I think there's an important thing to think about competition there too, right? Is to reimagine competition and think about it in all kinds of ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like one way is like, certainly what it feels like when competitive, sports are like about domination and about fucking bullshit, fucking putting each other down. But there's also a way that all of us have had the experience of competing where it's completely ennobling and completely fun and nothing about domination, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, we play basketball, we used to play ball up here all the time, where like after every 5 points, one person would switch teams. So the teams were constantly rotating. So you're always just on different teams, right? You couldn't count who won or lost. It was just always, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But there's all kinds of ways to think about it, and there are all kinds of ways to think about competition in really wonderful, fun ways that are nothing about domination. So I don't know, but I just know there's like anarchist soccer leagues that people play in, right? Like I just see so many queer women's softball teams up here. I see all kinds of people wanting to play sports for fun, just having a good time and getting out and running around and fucking running into each other and smacking stuff and just fucking around. So I don't know how to answer that question, except I just seem like people like playing games with each other.
Like at least from my experience, it seems like most activists are completely okay with any sports that are mainly individual based. But anytime you get the team sports, that seems where they get really like almost anti that idea.
It's so weird. Why?
We're all a bunch of millennials, and we feel bad about losing. That's my guess.
No, I don't say. I say, why not? Let's take that shit back. And if playing fucking baseball makes you feel bad, let's talk about how it makes you feel better. Like, what are the circumstances by which we can make that feel like a good experience for you?
I was only joking because I actually really enjoy playing games like that because I grew up doing it and it was fun for me.
Right, totally. And for some people, totally for sure, it's bound up with feeling like shit and being picked last for the fucking hockey team and like, some whole coach calling you a loser, or, whatever, right? Like that's all bound up with so much of our childhood experiences. But let's fight through that shit. It's too important to let go. It's too important to give up to these worst values. Like the sporting world is just too powerful, too important to so many people, and so important to our neighbors, to our friends, to our families. Like, just can't let that shit go.
So you're saying me still being pissed off at my coach when I was 11, I should just let it go?
Oh, no. When I come down, we'll go fuck that guy up.
Sweet.
Deal.
Sorry, Coach. I didn't mean it really. That was just a joke.
No, so like, what advice would you give to kids who are experiencing those things, especially if they're going through school and like they are being picked last and they're not experiencing that? Like, how would you tell someone who is forced to be in these situations where they have to be in these team sports, but they're just having complete negative experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's worth fighting for. And I just think that there's every way to say, I love playing baseball and this relationship is bullshit and I'm out. That nobody should have to take being abused in any circumstance. Nobody should have to take, being derided, being put down, being, any of that bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just to keep saying that it's not baseball. It's you, asshole coach. That's, that's taken in all kinds of ways. And to say, no, like, let's talk about this. Like, why are you yelling at my kid? What is that about? Like, you know what I mean? And I keep thinking about different ways. Like, I'm not going to argue that I'm never going to argue that, that there's not unbelievably, hateful and gross relationships imbued throughout the sporting world, from youth sports to adult sports to stuff in the park, to high level, to amateur, to pro, like across the spectrum, there's all kinds of grossness. But that's true for any activity we can name. We can name that for the writing world, for example. We could talk about that in the music world. There's just all kinds, you know what I mean? And it's important to say, like, let's just, and to validate kids' experience in that. Which is to say that, absolutely, that any kind of, abusive or oppressive behavior, I'm going to call that shit where it is. And let's try to find another place for you to play.
So,
and keep being public about it, right?
Yeah, totally. So we're getting at the end of like November, and I just know time frame wise, that means, is the playoffs going on for the NFL right now?
No, not yet.
When do they start?
Not until the end of December.
Oh, it's end of December. So who's your team?
Well, I cheer for Green Bay.
Uh-huh.
The Green Bay Packers, the only community sports-owned franchise in North America. So, speaking about the fucked up economics of professional sports, the Green Bay Packers are owned by a nonprofit corporation, and individuals in the city of Green Bay can buy shares in it, and all the profits go back into the nonprofit society. Any extra profits that are accrued are filtered into the community, mostly into youth sports and to youth activities. There's no single owner of the Green Bay Packers. It's run by a board of folks.
That's fucking amazing.
Exactly perfect model for sports ownership.
Well, isn't like the NFL in of itself kind of like socialist run, where everything is divided among the teams or something like that?
A little bit, but there's these weird fucked up rules now that because they got freaked out by this kind of collective ownership, you have to be a singular owner. You have to have a single owner of the sport of the NFL.
So they won't allow the Green Bay model anymore?
No, the Green Bay Packers are an original franchise, so it's grandfathered in, but no, anybody else has to be an individual owner. So I cheer for the Packers on political grounds, but also because it's a cool. I mean, just having a team like that is based in a tiny little community and just has this unbelievably fervent kind of following. It's kind of interesting to me. But I also cheer for the Seattle Seahawks. They're kind of my hometown team, and because I love the team this year, and I think I kind of got a crush on Russell Wilson.
So, either one of those going to make it to the playoffs?
The Seahawks are possibly the best team in the league this year, so I'm touching wood when I say this, but we have a hell of a chance to go deep. The Packers are in trouble because Aaron Rodgers got hurt recently. They're suffering a total rash of injuries, so the Packers are in trouble. But I don't know if you got to that part. There's a part in the book where I talk about the Packers, but it's like, yeah, like why not? Why does there's no reason that professional sports teams have to be owned by single fucking douchebag, rich guys. Why couldn't they be owned by a nonprofit association? And more than that, if we consider pro sports teams to be, vital parts of community culture, why can't cities own them? Like there's, cities own dance troupes and orchestras and fund them and take, you know what I mean? We can recast that. That's entirely possible to recast, high level performance sport and high level professional sport as part of the commonwealth, part of the common good. And the Green Bay Packers are perhaps the best example of that. Barcelona football team in Spain is another great example of that.
You got me thinking. Yeah, it seems totally amazing. So, is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
No. No, I got nothing else.
Sweet.
That's a total lie. I got tons else, but probably time for us to get out of here.
Well, how can people connect with you? And we should also we've been talking about your book, but your book's One Game at a Time. It's available on AK Press, and I don't know where else it's available.
I don't know. Somebody wrote me saying it was available. You guys don't have Indigos down there, do you? You have Indigos? That's like the big chapter kind of chain.
No,
it seems to be available in certain chains and radical bookstores, and seems to be kind of popularly available or on the worldwide interwebs. Supposed to be, you can buy that there from AK Press. It just came out though. It just came out like a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, that's why I love being a friend of AK Press. They just show up.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and if you want to get in touch with me, just Google me. You can find me, and sometime, I don't know when, but sometime I should be doing a tour behind this book. So if anybody wants to, drag my ass to town, I'm amenable and happy to come talk sports in almost any form.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Well, we end every show with saying "fuck, shit, damn." Would you mind ending us by saying it?
What? I haven't issued enough profanity already. I can say "fuck, shit, damn."
Awesome, sweet. Well, thank you. It's been awesome.
I appreciate you hosting me. I look forward to the time when I'll be able to meet with you personally.
Yeah, I look forward to it, and I will challenge you to table tennis. This week we heard Lights by Ellie Goulding
and Golden Hill by Tristeza.
And as always,
El Comandantes.
Which side are you on?
Which side are you on?
Don't scab for them. I forgot it. Fuck it.
Don't scab for the bosses.
Yeah.
Don't listen to their lies.
Yeah, I know.
These poor folks never have a chance unless we organize.
Yep. You know it. Good job.
Yeah.
But
you think you would learn it if that's the name of your fucking podcast, Jeremy.
You think so, right?
Yeah, I don't know it all.
Just because I fucked up for a second. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll definitely take it.
Criticize.
But right now, if you go to our website, check out our Amazon wish list. If you get us anything on that wish list, you can get up to 2 years free membership. Most things are 1 year, I'm not going to lie. But some things you can get up to 2 years. And there's some pretty cheap shit on there, too.
Yeah.
So
there's some like $10 first come first serve, and that if you're already a member, that
would extend your current membership.
Yeah,
you guys are fucking awesome.
Wired.
This week we'd like to thank Mari, the booker. She's awesome. We couldn't do these things without her.
She's great.
Yeah.
As always, if you liked us and review us on iTunes, we'd much appreciate it because that helps us get more listeners.
And we need more listeners.
We do. Also, become our friend on Facebook
and Twitter,
and follow us on Twitter and
Instagram,
and all of your social media goodnesses,
and Tumblr,
I guess.
Is there any other ones out there?
Google Plus, maybe.
People actually do Google Plus.
I don't know.
If you do Google Plus,
should we get a LinkedIn account and be like, Gap? I was shocked.
Shit.
Damn.
Which Side is produced by the Which Side Media Collective.